afternoon, Doug.
Afternoon.
Now, the Turkish leader has accused the US of trying to bring the country to its knees. What's going on from Erdogan's perspective?
From Erdogan's perspective, we've seen this pattern from the very beginning. Everyone is at fault except for him. This has nothing to do with Erdogan's economic mismanagement of Turkey's economy. This is about blaming foreigners. This is about his country being under economic siege. He's even played the card of calling it economic terrorism waged by various forces on the internet. So he sees conspiracies, he sees plotters, all over the place, everywhere he looks. He's been turning up the volume, however. In the past week or so, we saw him going after, basically taking hits at Donald Trump. But right now what he's doing, in the face of this continued distress that the Lira is under, he is essentially trying to rally the Turkish people against American goods, and most notably American imports of American products, essentially saying boycott U.S. goods. So what does this mean? Tobacco, alcohol, booze, cars, but also, and here's an irony in a sense, electronic products, say Apple products, okay? iPhones, which is an irony, I say, because you might remember that Erdogan himself used an iPhone, went on FaceTime during the coup back in 2016 to appeal to his country, to the world. He's under siege to come, don't fall for this. So he's really actually telling people to boycott a product that he himself and many of his ministers use. But he sees enemies everywhere. He is not being introspective at all, and he is not blaming himself.
So Erdogan is doing the exact opposite to what economists would tell him.
Yeah, what would economists say? Economists would say what you need to do right now, inflation's at about 16% in Turkey. You need to raise interest rates. What does that do? It gets inflation under control. It tackles it. It helps tame it. It also takes some of the pressure off of your currency. The other thing he is not doing is going to perhaps ask for some emergency help, a lifeline of sorts with the International Monetary Fund. He's not doing that. A lot of economists say he should.
Well, President Trump took to Twitter today, and he appears to be tying the saga of this detained U.S. pastor to the country's relationship with a NATO ally. But he's likely thinking of his domestic agenda.
Absolutely. Whenever we have one of these international disputes, if you really want to figure it out and find the key to it, look no further than domestic politics. In this case, what's going on here? Why this one pastor, this Christian pastor, a North Carolina preacher, lived in Turkey for 20 years, has been detained for almost 2 years. Why is he such a big deal? Well, because he's very popular among a big base, a big constituency of Trump's, the Christian evangelicals. They turned out in droves. About 80% of his voters, evangelical voters, voted for him in 2016. They are going to be a prime constituency in the next elections coming up, but also the midterm elections in November. Donald Trump's looking at that. The Democrats want to grab the House back. They're hoping to regain control. Donald Trump needs to mobilize that evangelical base. This is an issue they love. They already love Trump. They see him as their champion on religious liberties. They love the fact that his Supreme Court picks are evangelicals like themselves, or at least very, very favorable to evangelicals. They love people like Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, both evangelicals. So it's not like the evangelicals are about to abandon Trump, but he knows he needs to turn them out. He needs their vote, and they are one quarter of the American population.
Wow.
So we're talking, like 75, 80 million people. That is not to sneeze at. So he's using this pastor as a pawn in a bigger domestic battle to try to rally evangelical voters and make sure that they turn out at the polls for him on Election Day.
There's a lot of people he needs to keep happy.
Absolutely.
Okay, Doug, thank you very much.